Welcome aboard the National Geographic Quest, Lindblad's newest expedition ship. We're here in Alaska for our final voyage of the season. Our journey is going to take us from the wonderful southeast Alaska rainforest through the fjords, all the way up to Glacier Bay, and then slowly we're going to make our way down through British Columbia all the way to Seattle. We have almost 2 weeks to explore the amazing highlights that Alaska has to offer. So welcome aboard the National Geographic Quest and enjoy your voyage.
Beautiful landscape, the mountains, the ranges. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of the world here.
Here we are in Geographic Bay. It's a beautiful morning in southeast Alaska. We've had a little bit of sunshine, no rain, so every day without rain is always a pleasant day. So we're just going to kind of wander around back here, see what we can find, do a little exploration, take our cameras with us and snap some beautiful photos, and it should be a great morning. We got a lot of banana slugs. Oh, there it is, yep. So, yeah, this is a banana slug here.
Where'd you find that guy?
I just saw them. We'll see them all around. They're everywhere. They're cute little guys.
Oh, they're darling.
So for those of you with cameras, there's some really nice spider webs that you'll see that are covered in dew up here. Actually, there's a whole bunch of them. That's a pretty cute one. Spider webs everywhere. What's it feel like?
Like tiny little animal tails.
The grizzly has these claws that don't retract. It's not like a cat where they can go back in. So if you look at these, you can see the big claw marks right there. Boom, boom, boom. So this is probably a young juvenile male here.
So we're in the Tongass National Forest here. So this area, 6.2 million acres. Okay, so it's a huge area in Alaska, all protected. Not many people live here, but you see a lot of fishing boats. There are some villages and settlements. And this Tongass National Forest is a temperate rainforest. So this here is rockweed. Aha, lunch. So what I like to do, thank you, is eat the part that has the little mucus sacs in there. They actually float. So what you can do is you just tear off a little piece like this, and you eat it.
That's pretty good. Almost like a green bean.
There you go.
Good.
This area is remarkable for undersea wildlife, mostly because of the cold water, the productivity, and how that feeds up the food chain to animals like whales, seals, sea lions, and otters. Over the next 12 days, I hope to give the guests on board a real idea of what's going on in the water here. While everybody's outside playing on the kayaks, hiking around, or doing a Zodiac cruise, me and my buddy Amy will be diving and bringing back footage to show the guests just how cool it really is in the undersea world here.
transited through Peril Strait and a particularly narrow part that's called Sergius Narrows. We really have to time our arrival here so that we either have a slack tide or one that's a little bit on the bow, because the currents are so strong that if they're on our stern, we can't maintain steerage. We're going to pop out of the narrows here pretty quick to an area where we may actually see some humpback whale activity. And we could see some cooperative bubblenet feeding. This is where family groups actually get together and dive, and they blow bubbles which concentrate the fish, and then they come in underneath and the fish get trapped against the surface. They can't go any higher, and the whales get big mouthfuls of fish.
That was really intense. That was really cool.
Oh my gosh! Absolutely amazing.
We now know that these individuals each occupy exactly the same spot in the hunting circle every time they feed together.
So we dropped the hydrophone down into the water, and it's a live microphone, so it's picking up their songs that they're singing underwater. Usually there's one humpback whale that'll sing a song, and that coordinates all of the humpbacks to come up and feed together.
So between the intensity of the sound increasing and where the birds are on the water, you can get a pretty good idea of when and where they're about to come up and feed.
Oh yeah, no, that was it. I saw it. Wow. Oh, that was cool.
Now, there are only a couple other places in the world that this type of foraging behavior has been observed, and this is the only place in the world where it actually occurs with family members.
Good morning, everyone. We're here in Indian Islands and kind of the west side of Icy Strait. Out that direction is the open ocean, Gulf of Alaska, and out the other direction is my home of Gustavus and the other side of Icy Strait. It looks like we're getting some pretty typical weather here, which is not heavy rain, but just never-ending rain. This is about as hard as it rains here. If we make it back, you can say that you survived some of the most heaviest rains of southeast Alaska. So we're going to cruise through the Indians. We're looking for all kinds of different wildlife. We'll be looking for whales, otters, sea lions, all kinds of different seabirds. Look at these guys. They're really well camouflaged, and so they use that kelp to anchor themselves and not get pulled away by those big currents. And here it's also shallow enough that they can feed off the bottom. So a 100-pound sea otter is going to consume up to 25 pounds of food each day. And then we've got several hundred stellar sea lions out here, which are eating literally thousands, tens of thousands of pounds of salmon each day. And then there's whales, humpback whales out here that are just taking in 15,000 gallons of water at a time and purging out, all that water and eating all that small schooling fish in this huge soup of productivity. It's really remarkable to think about how many big-time apex predators are here and in such a small and tight concentrated area. Really remarkable.
Fox Creek is on the north side, northwest corner of Chichagof Island. Beautiful forest. We'll be exploring the beach fringe and then get deeper into the forest. There's a small salmon stream coming out. It has pink salmon spawning now or right at the end of the spawning season for the salmon. The salmon are extremely important for the forest productivity. The biggest trees, the oldest trees are along salmon streams where bears pull salmon onto the shoreline. The salmon get eaten by the bears. What's left fertilizes the trees. And also, of course, the bears walking along the stream leave some of their processed salmon along the shoreline. And the trees are much more productive, much larger along these salmon streams. Slippery when wet. We're looking at Sitka spruce, which makes up most of the forest along the beach fringe, and then also western hemlock, which makes up something like 70% of the forest on the Tongass. And also, considering it is raining, that's what the temperate rainforest needs. Underneath the forest, there's a lush growth of mosses, ferns, which have to have water in order to reproduce, and that's why there's so much of that in the forest.
It's a nice ending coming up. That steep slope, mud, grabbing on some prickly bushes. Now to look out over that view, it's incredible.
This is a bog muskeg. Some people call it blanket bog. The blanket bogs are a big sponge that holds water and then slowly releases it. It's a different small little ecosystem in its own. Different plants are growing here. It's a really nice place to see the difference than the temperate rainforest with the big trees, old growth trees. Although many of the trees here in the bog are probably just as old as the big Sitka spruce and hemlocks.
Oh, they're good, very good.
Out here early in the morning looking at glaciers all around us, and it's absolutely stunning. Snow-capped peaks all around, harbor seals here and there. It's absolutely incredible. It's like everything you've read about, seen in the postcards and books, and we're here. It's wonderful. It's incredible.
Good morning. So today we're here in Glacier Bay National Park and Preserve, and we've seen quite a lot of great stuff today. We started the morning in the Johns Hopkins Inlet, seeing the beautiful advancing Johns Hopkins Glacier that stands about 250 feet tall, about 12 miles back into the Fairweather Mountain Range, receiving up to 200 feet of snow every single year. So throughout the day, we've seen quite a few tidewater glaciers. We saw Lamplugh, which I like to call Lamplugh the Blue. It's one of our bluest glaciers here in Glacier Bay. And then we headed up towards the Marjorie and the Grand Pacific Glacier.
It's just gorgeous. It's a spectacular scene being in here with the mountains so close to us and the color of the water, the reflection of the clouds. It's really beautiful.
The Grand Pacific Glacier is that glacier that used to be 4,000 feet thick, covering the entire bay. And over the last 250 years, it has receded, making it the fastest receding glacier in recorded history. And we were able to hang out and listen to the Marjorie Glacier crack and crumble and heave those massive chunks of ice into the water below.
There, oh wow, there it goes.
Here in Glacier Bay, with all of the glaciers that we have, unfortunately, many of them are receding. So the Johns Hopkins Glacier is our one advancing glacier. We like to call Marjorie a stable glacier, but as many of you saw today, that glacier unfortunately is showing signs that it is no longer a stable glacier. So we have exposed bedrock on the bottom of that glacier, meaning that part of that glacier is grounded. And once a glacier is grounded, it will take hundreds, if not thousands of years for that glacier to gain mass again and once again push over the ground and touch the seawater. So here in Glacier Bay, the effects of climate change on our glaciers can be startling. Right now we're heading south through the glacier. We're at the top portion of the bay, and that means that we're in an area where the land has had the least amount of time to return back to what land normally is. We call the process of the plants coming back succession, and so Up here in the northern part of the bay, we're going to see smaller trees and shrubs, lichens and mosses. As we get further down into the bay, we're going to see taller trees because further down into the bay, the land has had a lot longer time to rejuvenate or be reborn. The other thing that is happening is once we have plants here, there's food for animals to come. And so over the years, more and more animals are returning to Glacier Bay. So first it was our mountain goats, and most recently, within the last couple of years, we first spotted black-tailed deer. So animals have been moving into Glacier Bay now that they've found a habitat to call home.
Awesome, absolutely awesome. It's amazing something like that could be up there, not fall off.
South Marble Island is a great place to see stellar sea lions, as well as see some of those nesting birds that come here to the park for the summer months to nest, like our puffins, our tufted puffins, horned puffins, common murres, black-legged kittiwakes, and even some glaucous winged gulls.
It's just a breathtaking land for the United States to appreciate, to pass on to future generations.
My name is Ken Garrett. I'm a photographer with National Geographic magazine, but I'm here with National Geographic Expeditions aboard the brand new ship, the Quest, in Alaska, doing the Inside Passageway, and it's a spectacular morning at Williams Cove. Every day on this ship we do something different. This morning we're going to walk in this temperate rainforest. Fortunately for us, it's not raining today. We're going to wander through the forest, we're going to see berries, we're going to see wildlife. So I'll walk with the naturalists and I'll help people make better pictures.
Look at the light in here. Isn't this gorgeous? Isn't this a beauty?
You've got quite a mix, dappled light, light spots, and in a lot of places we had the sunlight coming in and through the leaves, which made it really, really wonderful.
So what I'm thinking is the best thing is to put the camera down underneath of it with a real wide and shoot up, and we'll get the trees and the fern, and we'll get a nice kind of rim light, and the fern will be a bright green. We have every level of photographer on this ship, from the iPhone user to the person with tens of thousands of dollars worth of expensive Nikons and Canons and Sonys.
Oh, beautiful.
But every minute of every day we're doing something different, and it's a super photo-rich environment, and it's just great fun. We're all here to have fun.
I love following the bear trails, as long as we don't see any bears.
Well, here we're on beautiful Tracy Arm. We're going to go down to see the face of South Sawyer Glacier today, and if the ice is willing, we're going to get up close and personal. We never know exactly what it's going to look like because the wind and the currents kind of push this ice around a little bit. And the last couple times we've been able to get into almost within a half a mile of the face of the glacier, but the scale of things is such that it's really kind of difficult to tell that you're that far away because it's a pretty massive edifice. Now generally the first rule is when we're driving a boat, we don't want to bump into stuff, but I can pretty much guarantee that we're going to be bumping into ice. It's just something that happens, but I'll try not to hit anything big too hard. This is kind of like floating around in the top of a giant margarita. So a berg is 2 meters tall or taller, and a bergy bit is between 1 meter and 2 meters. And then all the stuff that's smaller than that is brash ice.
It's just so astonishing that we can be this close to a glacier. It's so beautiful.
A lot of the calving events that we see on this face are actually, they look kind of like waterfalls of loose ice and snow rather than big pieces falling in. But clearly, if we look at some of these bergs around here, we can see that some big pieces do fall in.
Being boarded by pirates, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay.
No! Weapons and whipped cream.
Everybody, we are here today to offer you some hot cocoa.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah. What a way to see a glacier. To our Viking friends.
To our Viking friends. A little bit of whipped cream mustache. A little bit of calving. It's just about perfect.
So this morning we are in Petersburg, which is the town that fish built. In 1890, a Norwegian entrepreneur settled here because of its location to the LeConte Glacier just around the corner. At one point, Petersburg had the highest per capita income of any working U.S. town. Today, it still remains a very important fishing town in southeast Alaska. There is a drastic tidal swing in Petersburg. It can reach up to 23 feet between high and low tide, and the floating dock allows the ships to remain in water during this tidal swing. This gives us the opportunity to see unique marine organisms that we would only be able to see through diving or snorkeling. From here we can see multiple species of anemones, including plumose anemones and crimson anemones. We can also see tube worms and green encrusting sponges on the pilings. We're also going to be walking around the muskeg. Southeast Alaska is a temperate rainforest and the muskeg is a tundra area. So you have this huge area of tundra, which is actually a type of bog, and you have a lot of smaller carnivorous plants that are in there, which are not typically found in temperate rainforests.
This is round leaf sundew, and they do produce a flower, but it's in the springtime. It has no chlorophyll, and it needs to catch insects in order to get enough nutrients in order to flower. Usually most people think of a bog as sort of a low spot, swampy and stuff, but these things will grow on a bit of a slope. The organic matter is built up so much that it holds moisture, and you get these little pools that are very stable. Shore pine is what it's called. It's the only pine native to Alaska, and it grows primarily in this type of habitat.
We're in Misty Fjords today and coming into one of the more picturesque sections called Rudyard Bay. And at the very end in the north arm of Rudyard Bay is the narrowest pass called Owl Pass. And it leads to a back basin in one of the prettiest sections of Misty Fjords. So going through this section, we make radio calls, we make sure there are no other boats in the area because it's pretty narrow. You don't want to pass somebody in Owl Pass. So we send a boat ahead and they'll check for traffic, and then we'll take National Geographic Quest through Owl Pass to get into the back basin of Rudyard Bay for our activities this morning. This is the first time that the National Geographic Quest has been through Owl Pass, in Misty Fjords, in Rudyard Bay, or this back basin, so definitely a lot of firsts today.
The little quest is having a divine time, seeing all this new country.
So here we are in Misty Fjords. It's about 7:30 in the morning and we've been having amazing reflections. The boat just came through a super narrow channel just up ahead, and we took a Zodiac and we went out to sort of see if we could get some nice imagery of the boat coming through. We also wanted to capture some of the beauty of the landscape. We've got these amazing low-hanging clouds around us. Beautiful trees, reflections, just an amazing morning out here in Misty Fjords. So we've been having a great time on the Zodiac, capturing it on film.
It is our first morning in British Columbia. We're in the port city of Prince Rupert, and this is the winter home of the Tsimshian people. We're just outside the Northern British Columbia Museum and have had a chance to do a tour through a lot of beautiful old regalia and also some natural history about how the Tsimshian people lived in this northern section of British Columbia.
This image here gives you a better idea of what a typical village would look like. Most villages consist of about 300 to 400 people, but some could host as many as 1,000. The totem pole beside me here depicts the story of a chief and his 2 nephews migrating to the Nass River area. At the base of the pole would have been this eagle figure, which was their clan representation.
In this part of our trip, we're going to be really focused on Indigenous communities. It's a chance to begin the cultural section of our trip. So it's a welcoming into the very diverse and fabulous Indigenous communities of the coast of British Columbia. The natural world that we're in right now, all up and down the coast, we've been watching fishing boats, we've been seeing all kinds of people in the harvest of salmon right now. And so the resources were very plentiful for Indigenous people and continue to be very plentiful and are a main focus of these communities. And because there was so much food, because it was such an extraordinary area to supply so much to the people, the culture and the art is very rich here.
Well, I think the artwork reflects so beautifully their way of life, actually, and Sharon's lectures have been wonderful in telling us how to think about a lot of that. So it's been very interesting. We've been here before and we've seen some of this, but I think now we're beginning to appreciate it more.
One of the tools we have for underwater exploration is an ROV. That stands for Remotely Operated Vehicle, and it's a new tool to us here on the National Geographic Quest. With this instrument, we can go underwater not only to recreational dive limits of 130 feet, but much, much deeper, to about 1,000 feet. This instrument doesn't get cold, and it doesn't have a time limit, so we hope to put this down in some really cool water and see things that we as humans can't see.
The transition from Alaska rainforest to British Columbia rainforest is very subtle, but as we head south, we'll be starting to see more and more cedars. Western red cedar grows its best along the coast of British Columbia, and it is still quite a wet area. Parts of the coastal British Columbia get over 300 inches of rain a year.
Like went on this trip and it was just blue skies and the sun. What's the point? You're gonna get a little weather in you, you know?
And as we continue down the coast, we'll be looking for wildlife. Marine wildlife is possible, certainly in the channels and fjords of the inland waterways of British Columbia all the way down to Vancouver Island and Seattle. So a tremendous route to travel. Most of it's inside passage in the protection of the islands between Seattle and all the way up to Skagway and Haines, Alaska.
So, ladies and gentlemen, for the next few minutes, please be sure you're secured somewhere. Just be sitting down or be ready to hold on as we slowly turn the ship and see how she handles the seas coming from a little bit from the side.
So we're on our way southbound, British Columbia coast, going through an open passage called Millbank Sound. Winds are about a Beaufort 8 or 9 right now, so seas are running, what do you guys say, about 3 meters, so we're running 9 feet, maybe a little bit bigger, pounding through the seas. Ride's not too bad.
And we certainly get a good idea of the sea state. We're going to see it. I wouldn't miss this for the world.
I'm normally in a small boat, so it's nice to be in a nice big heavy boat, you know, that you know it's not going to crash and burn, right?
Welcome to our big home. Thank you. Welcome to our big home. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome.
It's important, I think, in travel, if you have an opportunity to experience diverse culture, that somehow it's presented in a way that is respectful, that is open, that gives our guests or gives everyone coming to the area a chance to experience another culture. Sometimes these cultures are right in our backyard, and we never take the time or we never have an opportunity presented to us where we can experience a culture that's so important and such a big part of all of North America, but for me, particularly along this northwest coast. The potlatch is a public display of the rights, privileges, and ownership of an individual family who is giving the potlatch. It's their way to publicly say, this is my box of treasures, and I'm now going to dance them for you, or sing them for you, or wear them for you, and I will surprise you too. We're being hosted by the Numgis people. It is really, really rare to have the privilege to come into a traditional ceremonial house, big house like this in the Northwest Coast. I'm always very grateful when I come in here because when those doors shut, all of us enter that side of the Northwest Coast that is the spiritual world. All Northwest Coast people walk 1 foot in the physical world, 1 foot in the spiritual world. When we come in the house together, we're here together and we're in this spiritual world.
Such an uphill battle against the 21st century and the global efforts to homogenize the world.
As we all know, we've lost
languages and songs and dances and stories. So I wish these people well too, because it's really important for all of us, and certainly them as a culture.
We're looking at Pacific white-sided dolphins.
Excited, yeah, really excited, because we've been kind of waiting for more of the orcas and the whales, and all of a sudden we're just surrounded this afternoon with lots of them, so it's great. And I love that they were kind of synchronizing when they would come in and come up together, and it was great.
So here we are in Wallis Island. We've been cruising around all morning and we're just about to get to our afternoon destination, but in the meantime, we had a perfect opportunity to fly the drone. So this is what it looks like here. It's a pretty small thing. It weighs about 3 pounds. It's got this really nice stabilized gimbal here. And as you can see, when you move the drone up and down, left and right, the camera is actually compensating for those movements, and it stabilizes the footage. So you get this really smooth, still footage, even though you're flying the drone through the air. Really incredible stuff, great technology, and we're fortunate enough to be able to use it on this trip, and especially on a nice sunny day like today.
It was absolutely incredible. The views, the experience, it's just been amazing.
Alaska was really just wide and beautiful, and then even all the way down into Canada. And what really hit me was just over the past few days, the cultural aspect of it, learning about all the different tribes that have lived here for thousands of years and are still here.
We've been finding adventure in very interesting places. My favorite was the rain, just the drenching rain, and going up to the bog. That was awesome.
I can't say enough about captain and crew, the staff, the knowledge, the experience, always there to help, teach, listen. It's been spectacular.
You never know what's going to come up, never know what you're going to be doing. Terrific. That's expedition cruising. We love it.